sound of falling leaves. Autumn came early that year in Kyoto. The ancient maple trees painted the old city in brilliant hues of crimson and gold, and the streets were filled with the soft sound of falling leaves. Hannah, a quiet young woman who worked at a traditional tea house near the Philosopher's Path, often paused during her walks to listen to that sound, a gentle reminder that life, like seasons, always changes. Hannah had never been in love before. Her life had been simple: work, home, and the company of books and old music records passed down by her grandmother. She found comfort in routine, in silence, in things that didn't require explanation. But everything changed the day she met Aki. Aki was a travel photographer from Tokyo, in town for just a few weeks to capture the essence of Kyoto in the fall. He wandered into her tea house one afternoon, soaked from unexpected rain and cradling his old camera as if it were made of glass. Hannah served him tea and warm sweet dango. He smiled at her, and that smile was the beginning of everything. Over the following days, Aki returned, not just for the tea or the atmosphere, but for her. They started to talk. First about tea and photography, then about memories, fears, and dreams. Hannah, usually shy and reserved, found herself laughing more, looking forward to his visits, and walking home with a warmth in her heart she couldn't name. One chilly evening, Aki asked if she would join him for a walk along the Philosopher's Path. The moonlight filtered through the golden trees, and the path was almost empty. As they walked, Aki paused and turned to her. "I travel a lot," he said. "I've seen the northern lights in Iceland, the deserts of Morocco, the jungles of Borneo. But I've never wanted to stay in one place until now." Hannah looked up at him, her breath fogging in the air. "Why now?" "Because of you," he whispered. In that moment, the silence between them spoke louder than words. Aki reached out and took her hand. It was the first time she had let someone hold her like that, and it felt like home. Their days together became a quiet love story written in walks, shared silences, and photographs. He captured her smile under falling leaves, her hands pouring tea, her eyes reflecting lantern light. She, in turn, began to believe that maybe life wasn't meant to be lived entirely in solitude. But like all seasons, his time in Kyoto came to an end. On his last night, they sat under the large maple tree near the tea house. The wind was soft, and the air smelled like earth and endings. "I don't want to leave," Aki confessed, "but I have to finish the book I'm working on. I need to go back." Hannah nodded. Her heart ached, but she understood. "Will you come back?" He looked at her, eyes full of both promise and uncertainty. "If you wait for me, I will." And so he left. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Hannah continued her life, but it was no longer the same. She began taking photos with an old camera he had left behind. She mailed him letters, though he was often moving and couldn't always reply. But she never stopped believing. Exactly 1 year later, on the first day of autumn, the door of the tea house opened. He was there, camera slung over his shoulder, eyes still filled with the same light. "I finished the book," he said. "But I couldn't finish the story without you." Hannah smiled, tears filling her eyes. Outside, the leaves began to fall again, just like the day they met. Letters from the Sea. In a quiet coastal town nestled between the cliffs and the ocean, lived a young woman named Alara. She ran a small bookshop inherited from her grandmother, filled with dusty novels and the scent of old pages. Every morning, she opened her shop just as the sun cast golden light across the sea, and every evening, she sat on the rocks near the lighthouse, writing letters she never sent. Alara had once been in love. Years ago, before the war, before everything changed, she had met a sailor named Aiden. He came into her shop during a storm, seeking shelter from the rain. He had sea salt in his hair, a crooked smile, and eyes that carried the weight of distant horizons. Over time, he returned with each ship's docking, and their connection grew like the tide, slow, deep, inevitable. They spent hours together, reading poetry, drinking coffee, and watching waves crash against the rocks. He spoke of faraway lands, and she shared dreams of writing stories. Then, one winter evening, he kissed her beneath the lantern of the lighthouse and promised to return once the war ended. But the war dragged on. And he never came back. For years, Alara wrote him letters. Some were filled with hope, others with sorrow, but she never had an address to send them to. She kept them in a wooden box under the counter, tied with a blue ribbon, the color of his eyes. One foggy morning, 7 years after he left, a man walked into the bookshop. Alara barely looked up until she heard his voice. "Alara," he said softly, like a whisper from a dream. It was Aiden. He stood there, thinner, older, with a limp in his step, but it was him. His ship had sunk, he explained, and he had been taken in by a remote island village after surviving the wreck. There were no ways to send word back. He had searched for her the moment he returned. Tears welled in her eyes. She didn't speak. Instead, she reached under the counter and handed him the bundle of letters. He read every one, right there, as the afternoon sun dipped toward the sea. By evening, they walked hand in hand to the lighthouse. The wind carried the scent of salt and jasmine. Standing where they had last kissed, he looked into her eyes. "I never stopped loving you," he whispered. "And I never stopped waiting," she replied. That night, the ocean was calm, and the stars blinked gently above them. Alara no longer needed to write letters that would never be read, because he was finally home.